Andy XL back 10th of September today. Um, and this will be another NFXL podcast that looks at the 2026 NFL draft. Now, you should have already listened to me quarterback and running back look. This time I'm going to have a look at wide receivers. And in this decade, we've seen an average of 15 wide receivers taken in the first 3 rounds at a pretty even spread across the rounds on days 1 and 2. Going into 2025, the best receiver in this class will not be draft eligible for 2026. And behind him, as it stands, there is a clear lack of top-end talent, but there are a number capable of showing improvement to fill that void ahead of the 2026 draft. So let's get into these candidates and the round 1 possibles as we head into the college season. I know it's 2 seasons in, but all of my research for this was done prior to the start of the season. So it's really my pre-season look at this picture. So, as I say, in round 1, an average of just over 5 wide receivers have been taken in the first round of the NFL draft this decade. And the top wide receiver in college football at the moment is not going to be eligible for the 2026 draft, but I'm still going to talk about him just in case somehow you've been living on a different planet and haven't heard the name yet. Get it in your head. This is the next Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb. He's going to be that good. Jeremiah Smith, who's going to be in his sophomore year at Ohio State. He's the wide receiver everybody is waiting to come out of college, but they're going to have to wait a bit longer. As I say, he's not draft eligible this year. I've included him in this because if he did, he would be one of the very best players in the draft, regardless of position. In a stunning freshman year, he recorded 1,315 receiving yards and had 15 touchdowns. And it will be a huge point of interest how he does in his second season with a new quarterback succeeding Will Howard for the Buckeyes. Now, in the first 2 games of the season, he's already racked up 162 yards and 2 touchdowns. So new quarterback, no difference. He's off to a fine start. And get the name in your head, because I know it's not going to be for next year, but the following season, if he comes out, he's going to be one of the very top draft prospects, and he's the next great wide receiver to join the NFL. As I say, beyond him, nobody's really done enough to stand out yet and certainly push ourselves into probably the top half of round 1. All of these guys have got a round 1, a low-end round 1 at the moment. So let's start with Antonio Williams, a junior out of Clemson, at 5'11" and 190 pounds with a 4.45-40, according to DraftBuzz. Williams is neither the biggest or fastest receiver you will see high on draft boards. On tape, he looks a highly polished route runner who is elusive before and after the catch. Physically and stylistically, an NFL comparison could be Jordan Addison. Right now, Williams is struggling with a hamstring injury, so he hasn't done anything this season to date. After him, my number 3 prospect, number 2 who's eligible, is Jordan Tyson, a senior at Arizona State. Had a decent freshman season at Colorado, then completely disappeared due to a knee injury in his first season at Arizona State, before going for over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns as a junior. His innate ability to create separation and to win contested catches shows up on his highlight reel. He is an all-purpose receiver with great hands and yards after the catch ability, yak, and may be able to climb into round 1. I think he's currently late round 1, early round 2, but he needs a strong 2025 season to do any better than that. Got off to a decent start. He's had 209 yards and 3 touchdowns to his name in his first 2 games of this season. Carnell Tate is my next one up. He's the junior out of Ohio State, so he's playing on the opposite side to Jeremiah Smith, so he gets that benefit of maybe not getting the up against the other team's best corner. Tate's a tall, lean receiver. DraftBuzz list him at 6'3" and 191 pounds, and they have his 40 time as a mediocre 4.58. He had a good but not great 733 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns last season. Like Williams, he's a polished route runner, but being taller but slower than Williams is more likely to succeed on short to intermediate routes than deep routes. He's good enough to be a good wide receiver in the NFL, but possibly not elite. The fact that he is a number 3 draft eligible wide receiver, number 4 overall in my list, is indicative that this may not be a great wide receiver class. And he's got 118 yards and 2 touchdowns as the wide receiver 2 at Ohio State to Jeremiah Smith so far this season. Number 5, so number 4 really, is Denzel Boston, a junior at Washington, 834 yards and 9 touchdowns were the numbers for Boston in 2024. And at 6'4" and 209 pounds is a big receiver listed with a 4.52.40 time by DraftBuzz. Size rather than speed is his best physical asset, but like Williams and Tate, is a fine route runner too, and like Tate, he's going to succeed on short to intermediate routes rather than deep ones. But that extra height and weight may make him a good red zone target in the NFL too. He's off to a decent start, not spectacular, but decent. 142 yards and a touchdown from his first 2 games this season. They're the ones that I see squeaking into round 1, but they're all back end of round 1 as we stand. There's no outstanding candidates shown up yet. So what about the next backs? The guys that currently have as round 2 material. And that starts with Eric Singleton, a junior at Auburn. Singleton moves over from Georgia Tech, having had over 700 yards receiving in each of his last 2 seasons. He's another sub 6 foot receiver, but does have a sub 4.40 on DraftBuzz.com. He's far more than just speed on tape, though. He is an all-purpose receiver using that speed on deep routes, showing really good hands and route running on shorter routes, and also showing plenty as a runner on end arounds. The Yellow Jackets also exploited those skills as a kick returner. He could be another to emerge from this draft and develop into a round 1 candidate with a good 2025 season for the Tigers. He's had 94 yards and 2 touchdowns in his first 2 games for them this season. Excuse me. Next one up, Mackay Lemon, a junior at USC. Lemon is neither among the biggest or quickest in their class, but he's a polished route runner with good hands. Those skills could earn him a round 2 selection. Not much more to say to that at the moment. Started the season really well, though, with 248 receiving yards and a pair of touchdowns in the opening 2 games of this campaign. Right, next one, Nick Harbour, a South Carolina junior. He's produced modest numbers in his first 2 seasons with the Gamecocks, but at 6'5" and 235 pounds is a physical specimen. And with DraftBuzz having his 40 time as a blistering 4.24, he has all the physical attributes to have a breakout 2024 season. So far, his progression's been steady, and right now he may be limited to being an awesome deep threat at the NFL level. But if he can expand his route tree in 2025, he will be a round 1 certainty for 2025 and could even be one of the very best in class come draft time. So far, he's lived up to that deep threat tag this season. He's averaged 33 yards of reception, but with just 3 of them to his name in his opening 2 appearances of 2025. So if you're looking for a deep threat from the draft, Nick Harbour could be that man. Right, Zachariah Branch Jr., Georgia. At 5'10" and just 175 pounds, but with sub 4.4 speed, Branch is a small but really quick slot receiver type who could emerge as the first slot guy taken in the 2026 draft, having moved to Georgia from USC. That combination of pure speed and dazzling acceleration make him tough to cover, and if he, like Tyson, has a chance to overtake those listed earlier, if he can improve his modest statistical production from his 2 seasons at USC. He's off to a modest start this season, as we said, 112 receiving yards and a touchdown. Not bad, but not great either. Next up, Kevin Concepcion, the junior from Texas A&M. Concepcion's numbers dipped markedly in his second season with NC State as the Wolfpack went from Brennan Armstrong to CJ Bailey at quarterback, and now he's transferred to A&M. He will hope to get back to the 1,159 scrimmage yards and 10 touchdowns of his outstanding freshman year. DraftBuzz listed him at 5'11" and 187 pounds with a 4.46.40, so he's another who does not stand out physically. But as the first guy who has played slot in college, as a guy who has played slot at college and as such could be one of the leading slot candidates if he can get back to his freshman year stats-wise. He may lack the elite skills to go early in round one or even get into round one, but once again, this is another indication that this class lacks top end quality unless the likes of this guy emerge during the 2025 season. He's had a solid start to the season with 145 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Now that rounds out my round 2 guys, and we're still on target in terms of depth in this class, but there's just no elite talent so far. So into round 3, and that starts with Elijah Sarrett, a senior from Indiana. Following an 1,192 yard and 9 touchdown sophomore season at James Madison, Sarrett moves to Indiana, higher profile, higher level, and enjoyed a 957 yard and 8 touchdown season with them. He will look to follow up on those 2 strong campaigns to lock himself in as a day 2 pick in 2026. As a big receiver without top end speed, he's an intermediate short route contested catch beast, which could limit his role in the NFL, but those skills are still highly valuable. He's got very similar numbers to Kevin Concepcion so far this season with 141 yards and 3 touchdowns. Right, on next to a big school guy, Jeremy Bernard, senior at Alabama. The nomadic Bernard spent a quiet freshman year at Michigan State, then upped his production as a sophomore at Washington before going over 800 scrimmage yards for Alabama as a junior. Staying there as a senior, he lacks the elite physical size and speed to be a wide receiver 1 at the next level, but his solid all-round game could make him a good wide receiver 2/3 in the NFL. As such, he seems unlikely to emerge as one of the leading wide receivers in this class, though. This season, he's got 213 yards and a pair of touchdowns to his name. Next one, Eugene Wilson III, junior, Florida. After a highly promising freshman season, Wilson suffered an injury-disrupted sophomore season. As a smaller, speedy, elusive type that make him a yak weapon, he could be best used as a slot receiver in the NFL. He's also shown up well as a special teams and kick returner, which is another string to his bow. If he can stay healthy and put up big numbers this season, he'll be one capable of climbing draft boards rapidly. But he's not really, he's only had 1 game so far this season of note, and he had 60 yards and a touchdown against South Florida. So, all right, that's a decent start to the season. Next up, Dion Burks, senior, Oklahoma. Burks is another smaller, speedier slot receiver type. There seems to be a few of them in this class. After showing promise at Purdue, he moved to Oklahoma but had an injury-affected first season with them. Just cleared my croaky throat. His lack of physical size may put limitations on him at the next level, but he can still be useful as a slot guy with special teams abilities. He will need a big year, though, in 2025 to climb draft boards. Good start to the season, though, with 203 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 100-yard game against Michigan. Make it a strong start to the season for Burks and get him on the right. He could be climbing if he keeps that level up. Right, next up, Nick Anderson, a junior at LSU. First of 2 Andersons at LSU. He's a tall, long-striding outside receiver. At 6'4", could be a real red zone threat if he continues to progress in 2025. At Oklahoma, he recorded 10 touchdowns in just 13 games as a freshman in 2023 before missing the whole of last season prior to transferring to LSU. He'll need to show his back to the 2023 form if he's going to boost his draft value, though. He's had a very quiet start to this season with just 3 catches and 17 yards, but did get a touchdown. So he needs to up that if he's going to show he's back from that injury all the way back. So next up, Malachi Fields, a senior, Notre Dame. Fields moves to the Fighting Irish following 2 800-yard plus seasons for Virginia. At 6'4" and 220 pounds with a 4.5 40. On DraftBuzz, he shapes as a prototypical outside receiver. I really liked him on film. He seems to have intangibles such as great hands to catch the ball away from his body and surprising agility for his size to make diving catches. And he could be a bit of a yak beast too. He will certainly be one to watch in his new surroundings and might be capable of climbing up draft boards this coming season. That's why I wrote pre-season, but he's not got off to a great start. He's had just 3 catches for 48 yards and no score in his first game of the season against Miami, so pretty modest. He needs to up on that. Final one I've got here is the other Anderson from LSU. That's Aaron Anderson. Had a fine sophomore season for the Tigers with 884 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns to his name. This Anderson shapes as one of the best slot receiver options in this class. He has plenty of speed but lacks size. Big comparison here, but think Ladd McConkey and Anderson has similar physical traits. He and Nick Anderson could be the main targets for Garrett Nussmeier this coming season at LSU, and if one or the other is able to thrive, that will boost their draft stock and do good work for Nussmeier's stock too. So far, he's had 14 catches for 172 yards across his first 2 games of the season, so he's definitely the Anderson to watch so far this season rather than Nick. So 17 there. And as I say, overall, we're lacking an outstanding candidate with Jeremiah Smith not being draft eligible. The rest all look pretty much a muchness, and nobody's really going to push themselves high into round 1 at this stage. Somebody needs to stand out this season to get that. But with that lack of top end quality, it doesn't need much from somebody to lift themselves, separate them from the rest of this class, and that could really get them into the mid part of round 1 or higher as being clearly the best wide receiver in this class. So we'll wait and see what happens this season. But like I say, decent depth, not a lot of top end quality in this class is how I'd put it as we enter the season. That's wide receivers done and dusted. Tight ends will be next. See you soon.